Hey everybody, it's Nick. I got a follow-up to the tutorial we had about 3D diagramming. So a couple of things that came up in our class that I thought I'd talk about because it might be relevant to some things that you're doing. But basically, the model that we started to work on was not. So if you take the model we had in our class and you attempt to apply some of the settings that we were using, let's just see here. For example, if I go in and I start changing the lines. I actually don't see any lines. So just to show you what's going on. So if we actually went in, I'll turn these all off here. There we go. So what you're seeing here is the model. The model is actually a mesh. Okay. And so that presents a few problems like in terms of like the visibility of some things. Let me just go ahead and make sure I got this turned. Yeah, so we got the edge thickness, showing here. And you'll notice too, actually, as I increase or decrease these edge thickness, nothing's actually showing up. Again, it's because mesh wires don't render the same way as a surface edge because meshes aren't surfaces. Okay. And I gave a little demonstration of this, but I just want to go through it again. So like, there's a difference between what Rhino considers a mesh and a surface, and I'll show you that in just one second here. Um, I'll go to top view. So let's just say I've got a sphere. This is a really good example. Um, oops, let's copy this. And I've got two spheres, and I guess these are on the ground layer. But just quick turn these off here, just really quick. Okay, so got two spheres, and if you click on under properties, there's surfaces. But if I mesh one, if I transform it into a mesh, and I get rid of the surface, you can see how the surface is smooth. Doesn't matter how close you get, to it, or how far away you get to it, and that's because it's a different kind of mathematics. And the mesh is faceted, and as you get closer, you can really see the angle between the facets. And this is kind of an extreme example. You can change the settings, for how things mesh and so on and so forth. But a lot of things that are made in other programs, like in SketchUp, some things that come out of Revit, like 3D Studio Max or whatever, unless you're explicitly modeling things as surfaces or solid models or that kind of thing, you're going to get the geometry as a mesh. And this particular model came, I believe, out of 3D Studio Max, and well, it's fine when you start to. I'm going to hide the surface here. When you start to look at it, it has these kind of edges to it. Again, you can't change the line weight in the renderer like we've been showing, and so it's really hard to do some of the diagramming things. And you might be given a mesh model from somebody in an office or from somewhere else, and you have to make a diagram out of it, and the methods that we did won't work. You can really see this here, like how this is all like faceted. Meshes by and large are made out of triangles. A lot of systems will say like if you have a triangle, if you have two triangles that represent a face, then it just ignores the two triangles and just makes it as a square. Sometimes squares are actually acceptable for meshes too, but everything basically breaks down into a triangle. Okay, because a triangle, right, in geometry is a plane, and planes are what we can see when we look at things in the computer, and so that's where all that comes from. But none of that really helps you out. So what I want to talk about today in this tutorial, really briefly, I hope, is how to fix that. How do you make this thing into something that's usable? The other thing is obviously you've got a lot more lines you need. And this particular model, the way that it was modeled, it looks like they just extruded up some of the like floor plans, and then what was on the outside of that was kind of left, to be the outside wall. And that's not really good craft. It's not really. If you want something to be a solid wall, it should just be a wall. And that shows up here in the fact that we have all these extra lines that this person made, and we don't really want that. Unless, of course, architecturally, you want to express these elements. I don't think you do. So we're going to fix that too. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and under layers, I'm going to turn off the glass layer, and I'm going to turn off the ground layer, which I think I hid anyway. And the fastest kind of thing you can do, the fastest operation that you can do for this is there's a command that's called mesh to NURBS, and it's mesh to NURB. And when you run it, it has a, if you run it without selecting anything, you've got this option here. It says trim faces, yes or no. That can work, especially if you have a lot of small triangular faces, and you want to simplify them. You can select that option. Basically, like if you try something and it doesn't work quite the way you want it to, try it again with the other setting. I'm not gonna really go into this too much, but sometimes that can help with some things. I'm gonna go ahead and say that I don't want to trim any faces right now. And so I'm gonna select everything and then hit the button, and that's gonna convert everything to a uh, a uh, a um, a surface. It also keeps all of the meshes though, so we're gonna get rid of those. We're gonna go select mesh, so SEL mesh, and then just delete everything. Okay, so now we have surfaces, and we got a couple of problems here. You can see all these other, kind of pieces that are kind of floating around. Let's just, for the sake of argument here, let's just see. That looked like a lot of stuff. Let's do mesh to NURB again. Oops. Mesh to NURB, and we'll say trim faces yes. Select everything, and then yeah, about the same. All right. So yeah, so your mileage may vary. Okay, let's go ahead and select the meshes. Delete all that stuff. So now we've got our surfaces. Okay, but you can see that things are not looking great. Let's go ahead and go in and let's change some settings here under display options, and this should help a little bit. Remember, this thing was made out of these facets, and so Rhino is trying to like visualize a lot of this, and using our settings. So if we turn off ISO curves, right away, that's going to help a lot. Tangent edges, see that, and then tangent seams, and let's, for good measure, turn off mesh wires, and that gets rid of quite a bit of stuff. We've got a couple of issues. One, we've got this issue with like the pool. There's like this extra kind of line here. And two, we've got these things which we talked about before. And then three, you see the flickering that's kind of happening like across here. I'm not really huge fan of that either. And it happens on these windows too. So those are the other issues that we have to identify. I'm going to take a look at yeah, and these are also kind of an issue. Like these panels, yeah, it looks like it made a bunch of panels across yeah, we're kind of missing something there. So we are gonna have to fix those too. But this isn't too bad. So a couple things you can try right away, real quick. We're gonna go ahead and isolate. So isolate this piece. And one thing you can try is you can say, it doesn't always work, merge all faces. Okay, so just merge all faces. And sometimes if you've got something that's in plane and it's just like a little, like it's like the difference between two faces, and it's it's just a fraction. Sometimes merging faces can get rid of that. So that's kind of nice. Like that's kind of a clean thing. I see another kind of problem here. Let's just try that. Merge all faces. Yeah, nice. Okay. Some things are separate objects, so that line, these two things are not going to be able to be merged. And in fact, look, there's actually like a difference in height, so you're not going to want to merge those anyway. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at these problems here. I'm going to go ahead and hide this thing. So now I get these two customers. Let's go ahead and isolate those two. Isolate's kind of like invert and hide, which I've done a lot, and I think isolate is just a cleaner way to do it. So what happened here was that when the mesh to NURBS operation happened, there were some open faces or something, and so it tried to like make the like surface out of it, and so it added an extra triangle, and so that's actually one of the problems. But again, sometimes you can fix that by saying let's try merge all faces and see if we get, yeah. And so basically that once it merges those, it actually like resolves the geometry. Okay, but like in this case, it didn't quite work. We're still left with this. So you've got a couple different options. You can explode it, and then you can just like delete that one face, and then it's gonna like leave an opening, which is potentially problematic. But what you can do with that though is just go ahead and take all those and join them together. Okay, and then just cap it. If you're interested in, if you want it to be solid. But basically what we're trying to do is make sure that it doesn't do that flickering thing that we saw. And that's pretty nice. Okay, very good. You'll see some things too, like where you've got something and you've got an object and you want a line there. One thing you can do with that, you got to be kind of careful about it. But what I would do is I would go ahead and explode this, and then I would split whatever you want with the other object or objects, and that should give you the lines back. So let's do that. Let's say split. And so that's going to give you at least an edge, with this. And then, as we kind of showed, let's see if merge faces will give us some. Yeah, it might not give us. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Let's try joining them together first. So join, okay, and then merge all faces. Ooh, like that. Same thing, we can split that with this and then get a cleaner. Be careful of that. Here's the thing too, as I've said before, this is a very important idea with what we're doing. You only need to do this where things are visible. You don't need to go through and do every single window and like fix every single thing. Just pay attention to what you're doing. And to that I should say too, you should always have your camera set so you know what's fair game and like what's not, okay? Otherwise you're just taking extra time, you're making extra work for yourself. So don't do that if you can avoid it. I was talking about this too. A lot of us are doing, diagrams that are really like in perspective or whatever. I really want to focus on those paraline drawings, like those isometric, axonometric, views. Like if you look at these things that I showed you, let's get through the examples. This is an exception, but it is kind of a paraline in the sense that like the elevation here are these kind of paraline drawings. I guess it's kind of it's almost like a perspective oblique, but that has to do with the fact that it's on this corner site. You don't want to do too many foreshortened views. It's still using the same camera though. So this is the same building, right? But here's your paraline. Again, everything kind of locked in. And we saw examples of these things. So like by and large, like these things are a kind of paraline drawing. There are some exceptions, and in fact, the one exception. So this one is not. But you can see that it's a good perspective, like in the sense that like it gives us a good view of the object. It's not like foreshortened or too distorted. We can clearly see where the elements are coming in. This is the example. This is a perspective drawing, but the way that it's drawn, look, all these things overlap. Because they're rendered like too close together. But like if you look through these, the diagrams I showed you are isometrics. And if you want a refresher, you can go back to the paraline drawing, lecture that I gave, and I put up a link to that. But as we go through like this what's in DK chain here, I hope you kind of get a refresher, as to what the difference is with these kinds of drawings and why they lend themselves pretty well to diagramming. Okay. I would, if you don't, if it's difficult for you, the easiest thing to do is just go into isometric and just get your ISO from that. Okay. And then just focus on that. And again, you would only worry about the ones that are showing up in your view. So you can see you've got a couple of things here in our view, that we want to fix. We're kind of ending up with like a couple extra surfaces. So if you've got two surfaces that are next to each other, I would try to join them and then try to merge faces. And that should give you, in most cases, a pretty clean. So I'll just do join, oops, merge. That's not too bad. Seeing something here. This is polysurface. Camp. Yeah, so that's a little weird. Invert. Nope. Isolate. That's a strange. It's a strange surface there. Oh, okay. I just merged it. Wow, that worked. Wow. That thing was like inside out. All right. So to get back from isolate, just do show. Okay, so that's those pieces in this project, right? So that's reducing a lot of stuff, but I still see a couple of issues. I'm seeing a lot of flicker and stuff in these. So, same deal. You could go in and isolate them, and you could try merge phases. Yeah, boy. And you still got another one, so just do that. Merge phases. Okay, show. That's not bad. And then when you turn the glass on, you're you're a happy camper. Same thing with these here. I mean, you don't have to isolate them, but I do just so that I can make sure that I'm actually getting what I want, out of these. Yeah, boy. So that's really, yep. But that doesn't take too much to do though, just to take those and say merge. I mean, it would help if the model was clean, was actually clean to begin with. Now, again, what you get out of this, like why bother, right? Is you don't get all those sidelines. You can also go in now, and now your edge thickness actually is like meaningful. I can go in and actually adjust it, and I get the result, that I want. Okay, and that's not a ton of work. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is what's going on with all this stuff here. Um, and there's actually a couple different. I'm just doing a shift click on all these things. Okay. You can see like actually what's going on. That might actually be something. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Go ahead and hide this. Anyway, what I showed you should get you mostly through, you know, everything that's visibly broken. Again, if I'm looking at this, I may be only considering like what's really visible. So I'm just shift clicking here. Okay, isolate. Okay. So again, whoever made this, basically just extruded, floor plans, and the lintels over the doors are not, they're just also extrusions. But what that does is that creates all these extra lines, when these things probably want to be, solids. The same thing here. Like they just extruded it up to the windows, and that gives us this kind of broken kind of thing. Um, the merge faces won't work because these are all separate objects and separate surfaces, and so that's not really going to be handy. The other thing that I will point out, is that this is not quite lined up with each other. And I'm not sure if that's by design or if that is a problem, but I'll show you what happens. So something you can do in this case, because these are all clean extrusions, is you can do a Boolean union. And I don't usually recommend this because they don't work reliably, but in this case it actually does. It's not bad. It's just extrusions. So you just select everything, say Boolean union, and that will actually get rid of a lot of things. Where it does not is because the plane is actually broken, right? And so these things are actually unioned, together. If you wanted to adjust those, separately, because they are some kind of architectural element, go ahead and hide them. Like don't bring them into the union, because you don't want that. Same thing with any of these things. If they really were meaningful, then don't union them. But we'll go through and go ahead and union these. So you see a couple different things that didn't work. You've got this edge here, and you've got these pieces here, which again, I showed you actually, there's a reason why it doesn't work, and it's because these don't line up. And so you're going to get an edge, because there's a line there. And let's have a look at this. Yep, same thing here. So, this makes me think, again, it's just not a clean model. But let's see what we can do about that. So let's go back and undo, the Boolean. And let's go ahead and see. Yeah, boy. I'm trying to think of how to do this because this is lined up. I worry that if I move this thing, oh boy. Okay, first things first. So we're gonna select these, and these are pretty easy to work with actually. I'm just gonna go ahead and move, and then I got my endpoint snap on. I'm just gonna go ahead and move this corner and just snap it here, and that's probably all that I need to do. this is a little bit more problematic because I don't. Let's see what we get. I guess move. Go ahead and do that same thing. Whoops. What the heck? That's really strange. Okay. Polyzeros. Move again. Okay. So if I do that, yeah. So now I moved it from there. Ugh, gross. Okay. Let's take a look at this in the top view. Yep. So. Oh well, that's not great either. Yeah. So this whole thing is actually kind of out of kilter. Holy moly. Let's look at this here. Yeah, so even this is off too. Wow. Holy cow. Okay. Well, it looks like actually if I move all this down, boy. Okay. So I'm gonna move this. I'm gonna turn on project snaps, and I'm gonna move this corner. So what project does is it like basically projects it down in the plane. So even though I'm actually selecting something that might be above another point, it's allowing me to treat it as if it was flat. And that's really important because if you don't do that, a lot of times you'll get things snapping out of plane in 3D. I think we saw this on the Rhino house project. We did our Exos. All right, so that's probably better. And boy, howdy. All right, so I'm gonna do this. This is really bad. I'm gonna stretch. So I can do stretch command. And I am going to go from here. And I'm gonna turn on track. Boy, this might not work too well. Let's do perpendicular. Yeah, so I can. Boy, it's not quite what I want it to be. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna try to stretch that piece, but that's not quite. That's not quite what I want. Um, yeah, I mean this is. Yeah, we would have to talk to this intern or a contractor or somebody. Not that it would be, not that it would be a student or anything that would make a mistake like this. But yeah, so these are just to show you what I see here. These are just out of plane with each other. And if you draw a line, you go to wireframe, so you can actually see it. Yep, look at that. So that if I drew a straight line, those are just completely out of plane with each other. And of course, if you did that here, same thing. Which is why I was trying to just move the whole thing back. Looks like okay. So, oh boy. Let me see if I can. So one thing I could do with this that I've got here is to I'm gonna explode it, and now I've got the surfaces. Now I can access the control points for it, and then I can grab these control points. Oops. And I can do this, and then I'm gonna go through and grab these points. I'm not sure this is gonna work exactly the way I want to, but oh, that's not bad. So that helps because I drew these lines from above. Okay, and then I got to go back and select all the surfaces I had and just try to join those together again. Yeah, that's the one I'm worried about. The one that I moved. Oof, that's a lot of work. Eesh. Okay. Okay, and we'll know it worked because if we select everything and we Boolean it, should be, that's a lot cleaner. This is a problem. Okay, so what happened here? Actually, okay, so if this might be fixed by doing merge faces. Ah, okay. Saved by the bell. Yeah, there's a little issue there, but it's not. Well, let's undo it. See, I didn't think it was gonna hurt our thing, but looks like maybe it maybe it could. It's going to put a line in our rendering, which I don't like. All right, so what happened here? Sometimes you can't see it until you're in wireframe view. Let's go back to the shaded. It's this one. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I just don't know. Something is off about it. One thing you can do too is just explode this. We'll go ahead and join these together. Join. Man, merge faces. Wow. And that just, oh, I know. There's a piece inside of it. That's what it is. I think that's right. Yeah, boy. Sometimes you've got some geometry, especially if somebody didn't model it very well, and that's hanging around on the inside. So that's what it is. So I just had to delete. So and then let's just go ahead and join everything together again. If you just have open gaps like this and they're planar, you might be able to just say cap, and you can. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Okay. So good enough. And there you go. So that's clean. So you can do the same thing with the rest of them, but that gives you a nice clean, if that's what you want, that gives you a nice clean surface. So again, Boolean, works in this case, but you got to be careful about like what you put into it, and you've got to be careful about like things that are like overlapping each other or things that are out of plane with one another, if that's not what you intend. Okay. The other thing you can do, which I showed you, which is not great, is you can actually, if you do make 2D, you can erase these lines and make 2D, right? And then you just have that layer that you've got all your lines on that's just clean. You only have to do it one time. Or you can very carefully in Photoshop, erase or paint those layers, those lines out with white. Remember, because in our example, we just did line drawing. We had a layer in Photoshop that was just lines on white, and so that might not actually be that hard for you to clean up. But there you go. So there's that piece, and then kind of the last thing I want to show you for this that may help is if we're looking at these diagrams, some of the things that we've seen, you've got these like arrows and things. You've got like text or something like that, and you might want to have that in an isometric perspective. So I kind of want to talk about how you do that. You don't When it's something that's in 3D, I would say you want to model it, put it in 3D space. For a lot of other things, like putting fonts in, putting in dashed lines and that kind of stuff, I think it helps to do it in Adobe Illustrator. Um, but yeah, so just to show you how you would even do that, because we haven't really talked about this a lot, but go ahead and yeah. So like I would go ahead for an arrow, and you can start with like an n-gon, so it's called, or like polygon. And if you just do number of sides 3, right, and you can kind of play with some of these, things. But you can, if you do edge and then you hold shift, you can get a nice, arrow. And if you want that to be a different proportion, you can go ahead with your um, handles with the gumball turned on and just quickly edit that if that's something that you want. And then what I would do is, I think it helps to draw whatever line you want, and then you can offset. I would say offset both sides, and then for distance, you can kind of eyeball it if you want. But I said both sides. Yeah, there we go. And then just go ahead and trim, everything. And I think this part you guys know how to do. And then we'll go ahead and we'll delete this. Join these, close it, and then you could do planar surf, and I would put that on its own layer. And put that on arrows, and it needs to be red. Okay, and then when you look at these things in isometric, it's going to be in isometric perspective. Okay, so you can say I'm just kind of fudging this here. And again, these will be on different layers and things, and you can use the same technique, more or less, like if you wanted to do something a little bit more complicated. Like for example, I might draw an arrow that has a curve in it, so I might do like a 2-point circle, and let's just turn on snaps here. Trim this. Oops. And then do the same thing with and I would probably keep that triangle so you have the same size arrowhead. I screwed up. That's that's on me. Okay. I'm just gonna flip this. There's other ways to do it. Okay. And if you do your offset curve, you should actually have the same, should be basically the same setting as you had before. Same distance, I mean. So we go ahead and join these together, and we do a planar surf. Boom. Send it to the arrows layer. And I'm doing perspective right now, but so then you can get an arrow that's actually in, that operates the way that you would expect it to in the view that we've chosen. Get rid of that. And again, I think you know what to do with all that. So just, yeah, so that's how you do that. I would not do that in Illustrator. I would do that inside Rhino. You could always take the outlines and put them in Illustrator and do various things to them, but that's going to give you those kinds of things. I would absolutely make those in 3D space. And again, I'd be consistent. If you're going to use a certain kind of arrowhead, I would use it, the same in every instance. You can do things like I showed you. Like if you want to make that longer, you can go ahead and turn on those edges and just grab those and kind of pull them if you want to make a longer thing. Oh, kind of distort it. Maybe don't do that. Maybe do it to the line or something. That wasn't a good suggestion. Okay. So anyway, be very, very careful of your cameras. Get your models cleaned up and work on, if you have any kind of labeling or whatever, you have to be really careful about that. I guess the last thing you can do, if you want to do labels in perspective, you could do it in Illustrator with the perspective tool and use that to distort your text or like skew it or something like that. But you can actually do text in Rhino if you want to, and it's not bad at all. You can say like, main entry. Just kind of decide what font you want to use, and like that sort of thing. You can do it in the settings. You can also just, kind of once you figure it out, just kind of scale it. And, just use all your understanding of graphic design to put these in the right place. I'm not doing a great job of it right now, but there's no reason why you can't. If you're looking at the diagram types, the things that we had, in the examples, I think you can kind of figure it out. Okay, then the other thing, if you want to keep all the settings and stuff, another easy thing to do is just to copy that text, and then you double click it, and you can just change the text. You can say like exit or something. Should be pretty easy to do. You can flip it, vertically as well. Like if if it's interesting to you to have, that kind of perspective. It's up to you. Depends on the view. Okay. I think having it on the paraline makes a lot of sense. Okay. So hopefully that helps. Yeah. So anyway, pay attention, to the type of diagram you're making, and the kind of language you want to be using, and the styles. But hopefully, like what I've shown you, can kind of help you get some of these diagrams a bit cleaner and a bit clearer, and then kind of move on from there. I said it's not a great building, not a great model, and we improving it now. The fact that it wasn't actually a surface model. But we can fix that kind of thing. And actually, these are good skills to develop. Again, you're going to be dealing with a lot of legacy stuff from other firms or from old projects, and it's good to be able to convert to something like surfaces, and actually go back and forth. So that's pretty useful. All right. If you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, we'll see you in class.